The higher your price point for your product or solution, the more trust you need to build with prospects, which is usually the slider between B2C and B2B. Right? You have B2C, which is just $30 or something for your solution, and then you have B2B, which goes into 10,000, 50,000, 100,000, maybe even 10 million per deal size. So as that slider moves from like $30 price point to 10 million per deal, the amount of trust that you need to build with someone to be able to make that decision to hand that amount of money over to you becomes bigger, right? You need to build more trust. What that means in terms of content is that the content that you need to create, as you need to build more trust, needs to have more depth. It needs to have more expertise, more meat in it. But what that also means is that as your deal size becomes bigger, you need to reach fewer people, right? Because the amounts of people who can buy a $10 million product or solution from you is much smaller than the amount of people who can spend $30 with you, right? So you need to build more trust with people, but you need to reach fewer people. You don't need to go viral to make money. And so when you think about that in terms of content strategy, on the kind of low cost B2C side of things, you need high frequency of content because you need to reach a lot of people, but you need low depth content, shallow content, because you don't need to build a lot of trust with someone so they can spend $30 with you. Practically, what that might mean is you post 5 memes every day. Now you have 5 pieces of content every single day that are very shallow, which get a lot of reach. So you reach a lot of people and you don't need to build a lot of trust. So you post 5 memes every day. When you go to the slider of, more expensive product, you need a lower frequency of content because you don't need to reach that many people. There are not that many people out there who can afford you, but the content that you post needs to have more depth. And so when I think about the kind of extreme slider there is Howard Marks. He's the co-founder and president of Oak Tree Capital, which is a investment fund. I think they have $260 billion under assets under management, so big one. And their content strategy is basically that Howard Marks writes a memo once a month. And these memos are amazing. People love them. I like reading them. They're super insightful. And it's basically usually like a 5 to 10 page PDF document where Howard Marks himself writes down his thoughts about the current market conditions and where things are going and how to evaluate the stock market and all of these things. If you think about the depth frequency slider, that's very low frequency. It's literally just one piece of content per month. But the depth, a 5 to 10 page document written personally by the founder and chairman of a fund that manages $260 billion, that's a lot of depth. That's why people love it. It's so insightful. Even Warren Buffett talks about how when he sees that memo by Howard Marks, he stops everything and reads that memo, you know? And so that applies to a fund that I don't know what their deal size is, how much money you need to have to be able to get in on that, but it's probably in the hundred of millions, something like that. Like you need to be a pension fund or something like that so that they even want to talk with you. Most B2B companies are somewhere in the middle between the two extremes that I just mentioned. Right? You're not selling 10 million, $100 million deals, and you're also not selling 30 buck deals. Right? You're selling maybe 30,000, 50,000, 150,000. That's your deal size. So what that means in terms of your depth frequency slider, you need to be somewhere in the middle. You don't need to post 5 times a day, but you also need to post more often than once a month because you need to reach more people. And what it means in terms of depth, you don't need to write a 5 to 10 page, white paper, but you need a little more than just a meme, right? Because you need to establish more trust. And so what's that medium? For example, what we do is we post 2 videos per week that are between 2 and 5 minutes long, right? So the frequency is 2 per week, 8 per month, which is more often than once a month. And the depth of a 2 to 5 minute video, just talking, It's definitely more than a meme. You establish more trust. You have to know more of your stuff to be able to actually say something meaningful for 2 to 5 minutes. But it's definitely not the same depth as, a 10-page document that you have to write down. That takes them probably a couple hours to write that thing, right? There's no general, like, there's no calculation that you can make to figure out, what's my frequency, depth ratio that I need to. But it's just a framework to start thinking about, where you need to land, right? So if you're selling a $150,000 solution and you're posting memes, there's probably something wrong, because you need to establish real trust with people before they are able to spend $150,000 with you, which memes don't do, right? So it helps one think a little bit where to land. I hope this was useful. Let me know if this makes any sense to anyone.